Welcome, friends, to the Someone Gets Me podcast. I am your host, Dianne A, and I am so delighted that you're here. This podcast was created because I believe there is a visionary leader inside each one of us who is waiting to be seen. In each episode of Someone Gets Me, you will hear useful tips from successful visionaries who will share their stories about how being seen has allowed them to take their vision out into the world with action.
Ways a beginner's mind can save you. This is going to be a fun episode because a beginner's mind is something that I keep coming back to over and over again. Hi, everyone. It's Dianne here at Someone Gets Me. And today we're going to talk about the value of having a beginner's mind and 5 ways that we can use that in our favor. And because a lot of us are experts, and I caught myself yesterday saying in a business meeting that I am an expert in my industry and I'm known as one, and I work with and deal with other experts known in their industries. And then I kind of chuckled, and the other person in the meeting, there were a couple people, but this one person said, "Why are you kind of chuckling?" And I laughed a little bit and I said, well, because experts can get blinded by their expertise. Experts can be so good at everything they're doing that they don't see a new idea or an inspired thing, or they're not always open in a way we would want them to be. And so a beginner's mind is one of the things I try to keep doing. So I'm always learning, I'm always growing, I'm always trying to find ways to expand in a way that serves me personally, and therefore serving the people I work with, whether it's my clients or a talk I'm doing, or just life in general, really. And so a beginner's mind can save you. It can save you from being blinded by thinking, I already know what I'm doing, and missing something vital and crucial. It can save you from the idea that you know it all when maybe you don't, because none of us know everything. And so these are 5 ways that a beginner's mind can save your butt. They can save your day. They can save your business. They can save a marketing campaign you're doing. They can save your peace of mind. So it's very important. A beginner's mind is when we kind of get back to the basics. That's the first way. There's 5, right? Is focusing on the basics. I remember years ago, there was a Dove commercial and it was all about back to the basics. And yes, that's true. Back to the basics is important. You'll find in martial arts classes you'll find them in art classes and with musicians that people who are very skilled will keep that skill honed by practicing the basic movements. So in martial arts, they might be practicing a certain stance or a punch or a kick over and over, one they've done lots and lots of times and ones they're very good at. But as we grow and evolve in our understanding, there's nuance, there's memory of things that the precision will help rise us to another level. And without paying attention and out focusing on that basic thing, we can lose that precision. I hear a lot of experts say, I already know how to do that. And when I hear I know a lot, or when I'm start thinking it myself, I know that I'm walking into my blind spot. I'm walking into his place that it probably is not going to serve. So we want to focus on the basics. You know, I watch musicians that I work with, and they will do all the basics when they're practicing, or maybe when they're just by themselves, so that when they are performing and when they are on stage, whatever stage that might be, then their skill level is that much more precise, that much more put together. Yes, they know the notes to the song. Yes, they know all of that. That's not the point here. The point is that the beginner's mind allows us to dive a little deeper into the feeling, the nuance, and the precision of what we're doing. I work with people who are also very gifted and neurodiverse like me. And I work with some who are not neurodiverse like me, and maybe not gifted in the same ways. And so it's important for somebody like me who deals with a lot of different people to keep practicing the beginner's mind. Practice like active listening, paying attention to detail, making sure I speak up, those kinds of things that we teach people from the very beginning. And it's easy to say, I know that already. So if you catch yourself saying, I know that already, pay attention. There's always more. There's always a piece of the precision. There's a piece of information that you could glean by slowing down a little bit and observing yourself and being in the beginner's mind. Some people call it being teachable. I think it includes that, but maybe is a little different. And so I like to hear perspectives of new people, perspectives of people who walked different roads than me, because I can integrate that into my world. So the first thing is to focus on the basics. Practice a beginner's mind in the real basic nuanced way of your craft that you're already the expert in. The second thing is to make sure that you don't get like over involved in one thing. Don't put all your eggs in one basket, as some people would say. I would look at it like, get yourself in a variety of different experiences because they play off each other. There's a synchronicity. There's a synergy when we're doing more than one thing. So it's important that we realize that putting all of our energy and all of our attention into one specific thing will restrict us. And then our beginner's mind will have a hard time helping us see the way out and saving us in a situation that might be stressful or might not work for us. So it's so important that we don't get over involved in one thing, that we pay attention to our precision, and that we allow ourselves to use our varied understandings and experiences, new information, old information, all of it, that we allow that all to come together for our greater good and allow us to see the expanded view of what it is we're seeing. Now, it's really kind of funny because I'm creative, but not in the way other people are sometimes, right? We're all creative a little differently. And sometimes I can see nuance in things, or I'll be looking at something and it will actually hurt my eyes if it's off or cattywampus. When one of my websites was being built years ago, sending it back and saying, the left margin's off, the left margin is off. And they're like, no, it's correct, Diane, it's correct. It's just your screen or it's your monitor. I kept saying, no, it's off. I know it's off. Not much, but it's off. I work with gifted neurodivergent people. They will see it too. So fix it. Find where it's off. I was reassured, I don't know how many times and how many edits, that it was correct. And I said, no, I know it's off. So I kind of acquiesced on that conversation for a minute. And then about a week later, one of the developers calls me and says, you're right. It was off. It was off by like a pixel. It was off by so little that a person that is a non-gifted, non-overexcitable sensory person with the precision of vision would never notice. However, that's what my people are, right? And so they fixed it. And now I haven't had anybody mention to me that that's offline. It's those things. That's where the beginner's mind comes in. Because sometimes some people can see what you can't see. Some people hear what you can't hear, taste what you can't taste. So using their information, bringing it all together so that we're not over involved in one thing really, really helps us. It's really kind of amazing. The third thing that I think is really important is keeping perspective. And this is a hard one sometimes because some of us think that one time's a habit or we want it all yesterday. I remember an old song from Barbra Streisand from years ago, and the line in it was, I don't want much, I just want more. And so sometimes we're always looking for the hurry up and give it to me, give me the fix, right? That's what texting and social media has done. We no longer have to run home to see what message is on our answering machine. And some of you may not even know what those are, right? And those days are gone. But we want to keep perspective that life is a marathon. We are building legacies and with our own lives right now, all of us, whether we're doing it intentionally or not intentionally. And it goes down about 7 generations. So one of the things that I've learned from a lot of indigenous folks that I've worked with over the years and people that I've studied with is if you think 7 generations ahead, then, and how will what you're doing today, how will what you say today, how will it all affect all the way down the line for 7 generations? And then the question is, would you make that same choice? So if you're about to do something that you can rationalize won't hurt you in the next 5 minutes, but could damage the environment enough or do something that would cause a negative ripple effect, the question is, would you still do it? So the perspective is not always being in the fire and urgent. We want to have an internal locus of control, right? Where we act upon the world. We create our world by paying attention to all the nuance and living with our beginner's mind so that we're always open, we're always curious, we're always seeking varied experiences to kind of put together and create a really beautiful tapestry for our life. And so we really want to pay attention to the long game. Like, yes, within the long game are short games. As a lot of you know, I've raced sailboats for many years, and we have regattas. And regattas sometimes consist of one race, which often is a long race. But there's also regattas that go on for a whole week, and it's multiple races in each day. So maybe there'll be 5 or 6 or 9 races across many days that make up the longer race, right? That make up the regatta. So you get your awards based on the big picture, but you have to consistently perform in all the little sprints along the way, in the smaller races during the days. And some of them vary, short races one day, long day, short, all different things, so that you can use all of your skills and they come together. And so our perspective always has to be, I think, if we want to be effective in being curious with a beginner's mind, while also focusing on the long game, focusing on generations from now, is what I'm doing, saying, and thinking going to impact the rest of the world in a beneficial way? Is my presence beneficial? Or am I a consumer, taking without regard for the future or anything in the middle, right? So keep a perspective. That's one of the ways you can use a beginner's mind to hone your own craft, to sharpen your saw, as Stephen Covey would say, to do those things that help you grow and evolve into the person that you're growing and evolving into. I think it's important as neurodivergent people and gifted people that we have an intention and we focus on allowing those parts of us to show up. And then the fourth thing is a very important one, and that is using your voice. So we're allowing things to show up and use our voice. For many years when I was younger, I never spoke up, really. I was very shy. I was shut down a lot. I dealt with a lot of narcissism in the family as I was growing up. So it took me a while to get my traction and to use my voice. And even now, sometimes today, when I go to use my voice, there's that little part of me that's nervous. There's a little part of me that thinks I'm not going to be believed because I wasn't when I was younger, or they're not going to hear me, which still happens at times. And so there's all of these situations, but we want to use our voice. Beginners need to use their voice to have the master or the teacher or the mentor or the coach show them the way, help demonstrate things or teach something. We want to use our voice to the solution and to what's good and profitable, if you will, not for money, but for everything. Is it going to sustain our life in a really good and powerful way? So speak up. That's right here, right? And so many people who get sore throats probably aren't speaking up a lot. I know several people who were in the clergy in different ways, and all of whom got throat cancer, and at different times. And one of the things that I remember was before they had those diagnoses, they had a raspy voice for a while. And in one of the people that I knew much better than the others, she would always take on other people's pain, other people's problems, other people's stuff, and then never discharge it. She never learned how to discharge it. So she just sponged it into her own body because she was an intuitive empath. And she just took it all on without learning how to discharge the energy. And then the consequence was her own cells couldn't fight it off. Now, the good news is she learned that lesson and she healed in a lot of ways. And now it's many years later. I think it's 2 decades, a little over 2 decades later. And the stage 4 is gone. It's in remission and it's been gone. So combining great nutrition and shifting spiritually while getting all the medical care allowed her to actually heal that diagnosis. And that is because she learned to have a beginner's mind. She went back to the basics. She started speaking up for herself. She looked at all of the opportunities available to her for her healing. And she realized it was a long game. It wasn't going to be fixed overnight because it didn't start overnight. So do you see how a beginner's mind in that situation with a very serious diagnosis allowed her to free herself from the pain and the difficulty of having that kind of diagnosis? It really matters that we share our inspired ideas. It really matters that we use our voice and speak up for ourselves and maybe even for others who don't have a voice, whether it's animals that don't have a voice of language necessarily, words, might we say, they speak to us in different ways. And sometimes we're the voice for somebody who doesn't have a voice in a situation. I find myself doing that for much of my career, helping people with mental illness and substance abuse, and they've been silenced in some ways, maybe by their families or by their struggles or by the situation. And it's really important that I step in with my beginner's mind and help use my voice to teach them how to use their voice for their own benefit. The fifth thing is to prioritize your life, your work, your vocation, which is why we're sucking air, right? To have a priority. Because I think what happens sometimes is we can either go down one rabbit hole and just be over involved in one thing, or we can be really distracted and be involved in a ton of things and really feel dissatisfied because nothing really lands completely. So I think it matters that we have a priority. I use slim lists. I use 3 or 4 things at a time I work on, or we have a way to put together for ourselves the strategy, the idea for how we're going to unfold, move forward, whatever word we want to use, right? Like I'm writing a book right now. And the first I'm going to write an outline. Then I was just going to start writing. Then, and pretty soon I was so distracted trying to figure out how I was going to get started. Nothing got started. And I have an imposed internal deadline. The only deadline is for me. But I know that giving myself some kind of time frame, some time of reference allows me to be more effective at prioritizing. So I said, okay, well, if I was a beginner and I never wrote any books, which isn't true, right? But if I was a beginner, what would I do? Well, first I would write down the idea, and then I'd write down like a basic outline, at least to understand what I wanted to put with that idea. And then I would start developing it and see where it went, which is how I wrote my first 2 books. And so I started doing that. And lo and behold, the book is flowing now. But had I allowed myself to stay stuck in, well, you have 7 published books, you should know how to do this. Why don't you just figure it out? If I was to stay in that cycle, I could still be there thinking that because I've done it before, I know all the solution. Rather, I said, okay, well, if I never did this before, or maybe this is only my 2nd book, what would I do? How would I unfold this inspired idea that I'm turning into a text for people? And then once I asked that question, the answers started coming. The ideas started flowing. I started seeing the best way to do things. So I think it's really important that we remember that we allow ourselves to focus and we allow ourselves to prioritize what we are all about doing, right? That's so important. So beginner's mind really, really teaches us how to be more successful, how to take a stand, how to be everything that we want to be. We all have busy lives and we all have lots of distractions that maybe we fabricate and distractions that come in from the outside with different people calling us to do different things all the time or whatever they're doing, emails, text messages, all of it. Or maybe we just want to watch a TV show or play a game. The point being that a beginner's mind gives us the grounding, the solid connection with the essential elements of whatever it is we are doing so that we can grow even more amazing in our expertise. Because I am an expert at what I do. And I also know that there's much more to learn. And I see some people who fool themselves into thinking they know it all because they're now an expert. Well, I think experts have more to learn. I think we have more to learn than somebody who's just beginning, because sometimes we have to allow curiosity and allow new lessons to help mold and reshape some of the things that maybe at one point we thought were undeniable and going to be that way forever and never change. Because the truth is, the world is changing. The world is always moving and it's always evolving in unity, diversity, and complexity. So I think it's up to us. It's up to us gifted people. It's up to those of us who have these extra sensitivities, who are neurodiverse or who have an ability to see beyond the superficial. It's up to us to create a system, to create a way to bring our gifts, our vocation, our beauty to the world as a beneficial presence. I think that's what it's about. And I think that's probably what you're about, or you wouldn't be even listening to my podcast. Here at Someone Gets Me, and here at Visions Applied, and in my world, in my business and in my personal world, I practice these principles. And I don't do them perfectly, nor do I expect any of my clients to. But what I do expect is that we're all open to a learning curve. We're all open to growing. We're all open to evolving. So with that being said, you can always contact me. I am happy to answer emails or have a conversation with you, whatever it would take to help inspire you or show you something or do something special for you so that you can remember that who you are is beautiful and lovable and capable. You, my friend, are fully equipped to bring your heart's desire to the world. Allow these ideas of a beginner's mind to help you hone your expertise in whatever you're focusing on, because it works for everything. I hope this episode has served you and maybe reminded you or helped you see things a little differently that will help you be excited about your life even more. Until the next episode of Someone Gets Me, keep your face to the sun so the shadows fall behind you, because you're a rock star. You are here on purpose with a mighty purpose. So go out there and let your light shine. And practice beginner's mind. Let me know. Send me an email or put a comment. Let me know how it goes. I'm really interested. Until the next episode of Someone Gets Me, this is Dianne saying, be well.
Thank you for listening. I trust you gained some valuable inspiration and information. Please join me and other visionaries in the Someone Gets Me Facebook group. Or for more information on my services and additional episodes, visit someonegetsme.com. Again, thanks for listening.